Hello, all you lovely people, and welcome to another video of mine. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a game that I really had a good time with. And this is Echoes of the End, which is a third person action adventure game that serves as a bold and ambitious debut for a studio called Myrkur Games or Myrkur Games. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, this has been published by Deep Silver, and the game sets out to deliver a cinematic story driven experience in a breathtaking Iceland-inspired fantasy world. While it succeeds in creating a stunning atmosphere and a compelling narrative, the game is also a clear case of an AA title reaching for AAA heights. I just had a couple of few issues, technical issues that is, when I was playing this game. But apart from that, like I told you at the start of this video, I had a really good time with this. And I'm going to break this down in today's video. So stay tuned till the end of the video and you'll get to find out whether it's worth buying Echoes of the End right now or not. Let's get started, folks. I want to start off by talking about the game's narrative because this is undoubtedly the game's strongest pillar. The story follows Rin, a powerful but ostracized vestige whose magical abilities are so volatile that they are said to be calamitous. Her journey begins with a deeply personal motivation, that is to rescue her brother, whose name is Kor, and Kor gets kidnapped by a ruthless empire, so to speak. So the premise is pretty simple, but it quickly expands into a larger conspiracy, weaving a tale of ancient conflict, political intrigue, and personal growth. Now, there's a lot that the game does not cover in this particular game in terms of story, but there is a lot of lore that they have created. And it will be interesting to see how they actually tackle it if they ever plan to make a sequel. And there is room for that. The game is all about this relationship between Rin and her brother. And there's also your scholarly companion, Abram Finlay. And that is basically the heart of the game. So you have a lot of banter and you have to develop trust with your companion as well as you go along in the game. And the game is emotional, it's got good narrative weight. And Rin is definitely not your run of the mill protagonist, but she is actually a pretty well written and a complex protagonist. She may seem grumpy at first, but by the end of the game, you actually will get to like Rin. I also played Forsaken, and trust me, although people may draw parallels between Rin and the protagonist of Forsaken, I don't even remember her name by the way, but they are completely different characters, and Rin is definitely much better in terms of writing a character goes. So the characterization in the beginning might be potentially off putting to some, but just give it some time. She will grow on you. And by the end of the game, you will actually get to like Rin because she makes this eventual growth. And there are moments of vulnerability which make the whole story of Rin a little more impactful. Abram, in contrast, offers a dry wit and crucial lore, and they both really, complement each other. And Abram is definitely an anchor for Rin. The character work is strong, the dialogues are well written, and it's also combined with generally solid voice acting.
Why are the Dollsmen here? And what does any of this have to do with Balestin's research?
Your father had a lot of ideas about wards and vestiges. Now, I know why.
And that is what makes you as a player invested in their quest. However, the game's ambition sometimes exceeds its grasp. The main plot, while engaging, can feel like a paint by numbers fantasy story at times, relying on familiar tropes. Some side characters and antagonists are underdeveloped, and the plot often feels like it's holding back on key details, forcing the player to fill in the gaps. Despite these minor narrative shortcomings, the emotional core of the story, which is Rin's struggle with her identity and her relationship with Abram, her brother, and even her relationship with her father, which is beautifully shown through uh, like this dreamscape land or something. Like this is this parallel dimension, which is pretty good and interesting. So I would want you to experience that when you finally play the game. But this is what makes this powerful enough to carry the whole experience. Let's also talk about the gameplay. And it can be a mixed bag, I'll be honest. And there's a clear distinction between its strength and its weaknesses. First of all, the puzzles and the traversal is where this game truly shines. The environmental puzzles are creative, they're well designed, and they often require players to use a combination of Rin's gravity manipulation and Abram's unique skills. For instance, Rin can lift objects with her vestige powers, and Abram can then lock them in place, allowing for satisfying and thoughtful solutions. And these puzzles are a highlight and provide a welcome break from combat, offering a Goldilocks level of difficulty that is challenging without being frustrating. There are some cheap deaths, by the way, that you will encounter, and those were frustrating for me. But barring that, overall, the puzzles and the traversal part of the game, it's superbly handled. And the linear design of the game actually works in its favor here, as these puzzles are seamlessly integrated into the world and progression. The combat system is a blend of melee swordplay and magical abilities, and it's the most divisive aspect of the game. While the concept of combining Rin's vestige powers, like shift for telekinetically throwing enemies, I mean, it will remind you of Star Wars for sure. And this with Abrams' support is actually quite interesting. The execution can be clunky at times, but just at times. Most of the times it worked for me, but this is where players are divided. And some players would also frequently note stiff animations in some portions, unresponsive controls, and a lack of precision. Sometimes the camera angle can tend to veer off in a direction which you did not want it to veer off into. So I personally faced that issue as well. And there are some weird glitches in the game. Unfortunately, I was not able to capture it, but sometimes you'd find your characters floating on the screen. So that was like a weird bug. I'm sure that can be fixed by future patches, but this is something that I encountered while I was playing the game. The combat is often compared to a toned down Souls like system, by the way, and one without the polish or deep mechanical satisfaction. But I kind of like that. I'm not a very heavy fan of Souls like systems, and I think they're very challenging. There is a market, and there's definitely players for that, but it really tests your patience. In this case, it is more forgiving, and I think the game's um, kind of forgiving nature with a focus on precise parries and dodges, it will definitely have its own set of players being divided. I personally actually liked it, but I'll tell you what I didn't like. The boss fights. They were a complete miss because I think it was very easy. There was hardly any challenge there. And the bosses also did not feel like they were giving or contributing to the game. I think the bosses could definitely have been better. The camera can also be a hindrance while you're fighting, especially in enclosed spaces, and that can further compound the issue. But overall, I kind of like the combat system. It did remind me of God of War Ragnarok for some strange reason, although there are no parallels that actually can be drawn. But somehow, it just reminded me of God of War. But God of War, of course, is fantastic. Comparisons cannot be made, but for some weird reason, I still had God of War in my mind when I was playing this game. There's also a skill tree in place for both Rin and Abram, and this allows players to unlock new abilities and upgrades. And while this provides some sense of progression, some players feel that the upgrades don't really have a significant impact on the combat experience, and the overall variety of enemies and combat scenarios is actually limited, leading to a sense of repetition. Personally, I kind of enjoyed it. Yes, I agree that some of these skills are completely useless. In fact, I never even upgraded that skill tree or that particular skill. I was still able to complete that game without it. So that means that it was absolutely useless. The need for those skills need not have been there in the game in the first place. But let's bring it all together. And I would also want to talk about the visuals of this game, which, in my personal opinion, is actually a feast for the eyes. It's the highlight of this game. I mean, the world that they've created of Ema with its stark, beautiful Icelandic-inspired landscapes of volcanic fields, glacial mountains, and ancient ruins is a complete standout. The use of Unreal Engine 5 delivers stunning vistas and impressive lighting effects that create a truly immersive atmosphere. Unfortunately, The visual splendor is often undermined by a lack of technical polish, and the game has been noted for some performance issues. I had my performance issues, which I have clearly stated in this video. Initially, I did also face stuttering, but after a couple of patches, the stuttering completely went away. It also had a frame rate increase because in the beginning, when I played the game at release, there were frame drops and stuttering, but these were fixed thanks to a couple of patches. And character animations, facial expressions, they were all really good in my personal opinion, with some lip sync issues in just some cutscenes. But apart from that, I would say that this was really, really solid in terms of the overall visual presentation. And Echoes of the End is a fascinating and worthwhile experience, in my personal opinion, for fans of narrative driven linear adventures. And its greatest strength lies in its compelling story, the strong relationship between its two main characters, and its excellent puzzle design. Combat is not its strong suit, but I'll tell you what else actually works for its favor, and that's the game's beautiful world and thematic depth, which demonstrate a clear vision from Myrkur Games. However, its journey from potential to execution was bumpy at release. And I'm going to be very fair with this one at release because those couple of patches did make a huge difference. The combat mechanics obviously did not change, or there was not something new that they added with these patches because they were just to fix those performance issues. But I'll tell you what, for a AA game and for a game which is coming out of a debut studio, I think this is absolutely stunning. It's going to be really interesting to see how Myrkur Games is going to perform in the future and what kind of games are they going to come up with, because they've set a strong benchmark for themselves. And for players who are seeking a heartfelt story and a rewarding puzzle solving traversal system, then Echoes of the End is a journey well worth taking. It may not be a flawless masterpiece, but it's definitely a promising debut that lays a strong foundation for a studio with immense creative potential. And that's my 2 cents on Echoes of the End. I think it's definitely worth your time, and it's also inexpensive as a game because it is a AA title. So feel free to download this game, buy it, and play it, and let me know what your experience has been like in the comments section. I do make videos like this. These are my game reviews. But apart from this, I have a lot of Let's Play videos on my Lenovo Legion Go, and that's with an eGPU connected to it, without an eGPU connected to it. Feel free to check my video list out, and if you have liked this video, then consider giving this video a like and also subscribe to my channel. It's absolutely free, and you can become a part of my community where we get to talk about these games in the comments section. Now, there is a paid option of joining my channel as a member as well, but that is an option. And if you choose to do so, it would be for as low as $1. It would help me fetch a cup of coffee every single month. And I truly and greatly appreciate your love and support. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will see you lovely folks in my next video. Until that time, I'll say take care, stay safe, and may God bless you all.